Jungling can be frustrating at times since it is usually the most blamed role when something goes wrong. It is also unique because it does not involve laning and requires good decision making and timing to become effective. This role might be the most mentally taxing, but it is also rewarding because jungling has the biggest impact in the early game due to the ability to interfere with all of the lanes. If you can utilize this advantage to the fullest, then this can lead to early game wins for you and your team, which can lead to a victory. This guide will help you learn about the jungle fundamentals to become as effective and efficient as possible. We will be covering beginner jungle champions, pathing, ganking, and key objectives on how to win as a jungler. Without further ado, let's get into it. If you are a beginner and do not know what champion to use, there are 3 types of junglers in the game and I will be explaining each one. The first are the scaling junglers. If you like big damage and want to carry the team, then this is for you. The advantages of this type of jungler is that they usually deal the highest damage in the team. They also have the biggest potential to 1v9 the game due to their carry nature. When it comes to the disadvantages, one thing is that they require a lot of resources before being able to carry. This means that their early game is also weaker than the other types of junglers. They are also generally squishy and can easily get bursted with bad positioning. Beginner carry junglers that I would recommend would be Master Yi and Shyvana. The next type are the tank junglers. As the name suggests, these are the champions with the most durability. The advantages are that they could soak a lot of damage for your team. They are also gold efficient, meaning that they don't need a lot of items to become effective. Lastly, they generally have strong engage, which can translate to a winning teamfight. The disadvantage is that they get outscaled and don't deal as much damage when it comes to the late game, and they are not as effective if your carries are not dealing damage. Examples of tank junglers that are beginner friendly would be Amumu and Ramos. Then we go to the last type, which are the bruiser junglers. These types of junglers are in between the carries and tanks, in which they would be able to deal damage and tank at the same time. The advantages of this type is that they are the jack of all trades, which means that they can damage, engage, and tank all at the same time, which makes them strong throughout the entire game. They are also the best type of gankers due to this nature. The disadvantage of bruiser junglers is that they don't have a specialty, meaning that they can easily get outscaled by the carry and tank junglers, especially if they are put behind. Beginner bruiser junglers to try this playstyle are Vi and Xin Zhao. With all of that explained, you could try all the champions that were listed to check which suits your playstyle best as a jungler. In my own opinion, the current meta favors the bruiser junglers because they can adapt to any situation no matter what composition your team picks. After picking a champion and loading into the game, the next would be all about jungle routes and pathing. Basically, your jungle route would most likely start either at the blue buff or Krugs. This would depend on many factors such as what champion being used, lane to gank, and what is the priority objective, which will all be discussed later. The default jungle route that is used majority of the games is blue start into a full clear. This involves starting at the blue, Gromp, Wolves, Raptors, red, Krugs into Scuttle. If the Scuttle is hard to contest or taken, immediately recall and take the other Scuttle. This is your bread and butter route that can be used by any champion and my recommendation especially for beginner junglers. The reason why this is the default pathing is because it has the most efficient clear and getting the red later allows it to stay longer for stronger ganks in combination with your ultimate. Another common jungle route is the red start 4 camp Scuttle clear. This involves starting at Krugs, red, Raptors, blue, Scuttle. This is a bit more offensive since starting at the red side allows for earlier ganks and is recommended for junglers who are strong at level 3. After taking the crab, you could look to gank top, mid, or even invade if they are playing a scaling jungler. If none of these options are available, the last resort is to just go back and clear your own camps. Always look for a possible gank while clearing the jungle. These two are the fundamental types of pathing that are needed to know. All the other ways of pathing are a lot riskier, for example, the level 1 Raptor invade. To prevent these types of cheese, there's something junglers do at the start of the game, which is to immediately run to the opposite side of where you are starting, ward the bush, then recall and switch to your red trinket. That way, if the opponent invades the opposite side, you can react quickly by invading their side of the jungle after the buff to even up the trade. In conjunction with pathing, another key fundamental that is needed as a jungler is how to gank efficiently. Having successful ganks is more important than perfect pathing because not only does your team get golden experience, you can also deny these two assets from the opponent plus mental damage, which is really important in solo queue. There are 3 ways to gank. The first is going for overextended lanes. Making a line in the middle of the map, all the enemy icons that are crossing on the other side means that they are extended, which makes them susceptible to ganks and vice versa. The second way to gank is to go for lanes that have no dashes and summoner spells. The less ways they are able to escape, the higher the chance of getting a kill. Don't be afraid to punish them as much as possible, especially if they don't know how to play safe. The third way of ganking is tower diving. This is ideal when your laner built up a big wave, pushing onto the enemy tower, and the opposing laner has low HP. Best case scenario, you get the kill, plates, and deny all of the golden XP that the enemy can get. If they are able to escape, it is still a good play since they cannot farm, making it a win-win situation. Just be careful for any outplay or counter gank because this is also the riskiest way to gank since you are diving under the tower. The worst time to gank is when the opposing team has built up a big wave, full HP, and no information where the enemy jungle might be. One more important factor a jungler needs to know is win conditions. Once all the picks are done, you should already be analyzing the best lanes to gank and what needs to happen to win the game, which is a case-to-case basis. For example, tank junglers need to help their carries to get ahead of the matchup and then just peel for them during the fights. If your carries are not fed, then it is better to just go for the enemy carry and prevent them from joining the fight. Lastly, let's talk about counter ganking and invading. This is everything that I discussed but the other way around. If you see your teammate with low HP under the tower, chances are that the enemy jungler will go for a tower dive, and that is the best time to help cover for your lane. The key to this concept is knowing where the enemy jungler might be and having the appropriate reaction to their play. And there you have it. These are the basic fundamentals every jungler needs to have. If you have any other tips and tricks to share, especially to beginner junglers, feel free to comment down below. If you enjoyed the video, kindly subscribe to the channel for more jungle tutorials. Hope you learned a thing or two. That is it for me, and peace out. Ciao ciao, bye!